everybody, I'm Eric the Counselor.
And I'm Des Perry.
This is a lifestyle show
about improving your mental health.
You ready?
Let's experience mental health. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Experience Mental Health Podcast. I am your host, Des Perry. Who are you?
What's good, people?
Who are you?
I am Eric the Counselor. In case anybody was wondering, I'm Eric the Counselor. Yes.
Yeah. Hey, man, let me tell you something, Eric. It's been a minute. It has been a minute, man. How you been?
Hadn't been that long. It's only been a couple of weeks. Has it been that long? No, we recorded a long time ago, but we recorded multiple shows. And so we've dropped. Okay, yeah, so it has been. Yeah, but we meet every week. I see you every week, every Wednesday.
This is true. This is true.
8 a.m. So it don't seem like we missed a beat at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, we haven't recorded in a while. It's good to be back here in the saddle, man. It really is.
Definitely. I'm just appreciative that, the weather is finally getting to a place where it's starting to feel like summertime, and, I'm saying, I can bring them shorts out without worrying about if it's going to be cold in the morning and then warm up by the afternoon. So I don't know. I think I'm starting to feel, better mentally now, knowing that the weather is getting into a place that, that I like it. Not cold, because I hate the cold. It's ghetto. I hate it.
It's getting better, man. I hope you guys are really enjoying the last shows that we did last week. 2 weeks ago, we put out the show, what to do when the outside opens back up. Yeah. Outside is back open. People are back out in the streets. The CDC is saying wear a mask, don't wear a mask.
Right, don't wear a mask. Yeah.
It's like this. Do what makes you feel safe. That's what I've always said from day one. Over a year ago, we were talking about this situation. I remember doing shows at the crib, man.
Yeah.
The old house. And here we are still, but we're coming out of it. But just do what makes you feel safe. Big ups to all of our listeners listening on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, wherever you find this podcast. I don't know where it's at. We have Desword. I don't know where it's at.
Everywhere you just listed.
Is where it's at.
Yeah, right. Great Combo Media is definitely where it's at. So, everywhere that you just mentioned, you can check out the podcast. Make sure that y'all continue to listen in, share, like, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed already, share with your friends, your loved ones. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah, definitely YouTube. So for folks that are watching us and tuning in and you can see us, we appreciate y'all for checking us out and getting those views up.
Look, we're marching towards 300 subscribers on our YouTube channel. And remember this, I always keep going back to the when we had 0.
Yep.
From 0 to where we are now, that means that people want the content. We're not begging anybody. We are begging you guys, actually. We kind of beg, come on, check us out. But everybody that's with us, we believe you want to be with us. The comments go crazy on certain shows. And so we really appreciate you guys. So if you're still listening right now, go ahead and like the show right now and go ahead and subscribe and then set up the notification so you don't miss any of the shows. But without any further ado, we got a great show lined up today with a young man that has written a book that caught my attention. Ron introduced me to our guest today, Reggie Ford, who we're talking to. And Ron, he said, man, Ron, everybody. It's like Ron knows everybody. And it's like certain types of people gravitate to Ron. And Ron and I were actually talking about Reggie the other day. And I was like, Ron, how do these people just keep gravitating towards you? Like people like Reggie, people like me. How do we just find our way in your life? And it's just the way that he is. He has this magnetic pull to young Black men who are doing outstanding, amazing things. And that's just who we end up running into. And so today we have a person that met Ron. I'll let you talk more about that, but he is the author of this book here. And so Ron was like, man, have you heard of Reggie Ford? You got to check out his book. And I immediately saw, of course, me being a therapist, when I see PTSD, I'm like, here we go. Another counseling book or another book, about PTSD. But once I read the acronym Perseverance Through Severe Dysfunction, it actually intrigued me. I was like, oh, okay, let me check it out. And so funny enough, we met up we went to the Nashville SC game, the soccer team here in Nashville, and we was hanging out, man. We had a good time. And so that's how I met Reggie. And Reggie, is Reggie on the screen yet? You gonna pop him up?
Yeah, he popped up. Boom.
There you go. What's up, Reggie?
What's up, fellas? What's up? Thank y'all for having me.
definitely
Reggie
respectful.
Ford, he
I'm
like
glad
on a
that you.
media tour.
Yes. No,
He's on a media tour right now. He's everywhere.
It's been busy. It's been busy. I got so many podcasts and interviews lined up, but it's a good thing, right? It's a good thing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so important, for that book. And I'm gonna go ahead and say I haven't personally read the book today, but I will be ordering myself a copy. But just seeing that title alone from the breakdown of what PTSD, that perseverance right there.
That
Oh
right
man,
there.
that look, that alone, I think that is definitely, like Eric said, intrigued me. But I'll definitely be checking out the book, and I can't wait to you to just dive into it and just talking about it. So before we even just get into this conversation, I wanted to ask you, when you think about mental health, like what comes to mind? Like what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Yeah, now it's everything. It's the priority of my life currently. But it ain't always been that case. And so I prioritize mental health now more than I do work, than I do play, than I do anything, just because I know that it's pervasive in everything that we do in life. And it's the most important thing. If our minds aren't right, then our bodies aren't right. If our minds aren't right, then we can't navigate the world how we think we want to. So yeah, when I think of mental health, I think of life.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely important, because I think a lot of people lately, and I've said this before, they focus so much time on their body, on the physical, that they don't focus too much on their mental. I actually want to even just point out, so this is my first introduction to you, Reggie, so I had to check out your Instagram page. So I'm just kind of going through it and just kind of seeing who you are a little bit. But I saw a post that you made where you posted a picture, I think this is some years ago, you had your shirt off and it was a mirror picture. But in the post, you was talking about how, yes, you physically look good, but you were a hot mess during this time.
Yeah.
There was so much going on with you. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that, about what was going on when you took that picture?
Yeah. So, that picture, I had probably just finished up playing ball at Vandy, and physically, abs, muscles, all that was there. And so outside looking in, it's like, dang, he is in shape. He is healthy. But, just even from a physical standpoint, I had so many aches and pains from football. My knees messed up, my back, my feet, all this stuff was hurting, but it looked good. And then going from a mental standpoint, I was depressed. I didn't know how to deal with leaving ball and not ever strapping up and putting pads on again. And then I had some losses in the family, some major losses in the family, and a lot of stuff going on at the time that led to my depression, but I didn't know it. Right. I'm just, I'm in a slump, or I don't really want to go outside,
Right.
But that's how we talked about it. And then, it was PTSD episodes that would come up in my life that really looked like, the uninformed bipolar. One way you this way, then you flip and you like that. No, it's not how bipolar presents. And it would be me being triggered by, abandonment issues or trust issues. And so all of that was happening at the time, and it led to me being a certain way to different people and acting, not like my best self. And it was mental health that was being neglected that led to that. And so that post was, I showed a picture of my body, my muscles, my the outward appearance, but really digging into what was going on the inside.
Yeah, definitely.
But Reggie, I want to ask you, before we get too far into the book and into the conversation, can you tell us a little bit about you and about your journey and how you ended up to this place where you are today?
Yeah. So grew up, born and raised in Nashville. I grew up in the hood. My mom, she was a baby.
Side of town. You got to go and break it down. What's
east
side?
It's okay. East side. Yeah, that's the strong
out
side.
East.
So yeah. So I grew up out east, but ended up moving all around town, Antioch, Edge Hill, out south, just all over. And that was life, just growing up in the hood. But I got opportunity to go to private school on the West Side at MBA, Montgomery Bell Academy, Mama's Boy Academy for some, and
Mama's Boy Academy.
yeah.
So, that's my first time hearing that one. I never heard that word.
No, that's how it's usually referred to.
Yeah.
And that was, for me, it was a culture shock, coming from, coming from out East and going to MBA, being the only Black person in my class, and having to, being one of the, probably the only poor person in my class, and having to see and experience all of that on a daily basis, going to and from the hood to MBA. It was a lot. And but it was an experience that helped me see the world from a different light. I talk about in my book about, normalizing all of the stuff that we go through in life, because everybody's going through it. And getting to another environment where I was able to, look back and say, well, maybe that wasn't so normal. That was what NBA provided me, and just a different escape. But I did well, even though it was a culture shock, and socially it was tough. It was probably the toughest thing I've ever done socially. Academically, athletically, I killed it. And I was one of the top students in my class in the school, and eventually graduated from there in high school. And I had, different offers. I played football, basketball, and I ran track, and I had some offers to go play. I had some other schools looking at me just for academics, but I decided I wanted to stay in Nashville. I wanted to go to Vandy. That was my dream school since I was, 10 years old, and I played in the stadium there. And so I applied to Vandy. I turned down Harvard. I turned down Penn. I turned down, Ivy Leagues, and decided that, being home with my family was more important. And so I went to Vandy, and I initially thought I was going to study psychology. My first class, 8 a.m. Monday morning, Psych 101, and it just didn't work out that way. But
Because you did 8 o'clock. If you would have took
I know,
like
right?
10, you probably would have stayed with it.
I wish
them 8 a.m.s was never good.
See, I needed somebody like you, Eric, in my life to give me that guidance.
Don't do that.
First generation college student, need that guidance. But I eventually studied economics. So I was economics and corporate strategy, and I walked on because I initially didn't think I was going to play again, because injuries and just like feeling like I'm done with ball. But I walked on, made the team, started on special teams and things like that, and had a great time there. Played with 3 different head coaches. It was a lot, but eventually ended with Coach Franklin. That was fun, right? We started winning in bowl games and stuff like that. So, but I finished up degree and didn't know what I was going to do after school. So I went back to school, and I got my master's in accounting from the business school at Vandy, the Owen Graduate Business School. And, it was a 1-year program, get your CPA, do all this stuff. And it's like, okay, so I did it, trusted the process, and became a CPA, started working for one of the big 4 accounting firms, Deloitte, here in town, and did well there, and eventually got sick of that work. So I switched it up and went into wealth management, which is what I do now. But I was working for a firm that catered to, the same population that I went to high school with, basically. Bill me, long money, old money, and
white folks.
I'm gonna say it. Yeah, white folks. Yeah,
rich white folks.
Rich old white folks. Yeah.
And let's just keep it real.
And so I did that for a couple of years before, really looking at myself in the mirror and feeling like I wasn't getting the satisfaction that I wanted from helping rich old white folks. And I wanted to take everything that I had learned, all the services that I was providing, and give them to the demographic that I felt could use them more. And so I started working I started my company, Rose Creek Wealth Management, started working with younger professionals, first generation folks, people who are blazing a path for themselves, and professional athletes. And so that's where I am now, Rose Creek Wealth Management, and then also do a little writing on the side. So, yeah.
Man, Reggie, like hearing you talk and just watching you it really is like inspirational to me, because you had this humility about yourself, that is like it always it reminds me of myself, honestly, because you could be like out here bragging like, man, I did this. You could be a whole nother type of person, but I can definitely relate to that. You have this sense of humility, and just even reading your book and reading through just from chapter 1, when you were talking about your mom and your grandmother beating up somebody, and, all the way through, I'm at chapter 10 now, but it's like when I'm reading the book, it's like I'm sitting and just listening to you talk. Right. And that's a good thing. I want to dive into the book. I got so many things, but the first, because you talk a lot about your family.
Yeah.
Right. You talk about your mom, your dad, your stepdad, the men that were in and out of your life that your mom was dealing with. You talk about your grandmother, you talk about your family a lot. And I'm wondering, I'm an author, and the books, when I talk about my family, you got to kind of run it by your family first to see, like, is this accurate? How you feel about it.
That cool if I say that?
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, when you're telling these stories about your father being in and out of jail, being addicted to drugs, and having that, like, how does your family respond to these stories?
Yeah. So one of the things when I first set out to write the book, I wanted to interview all my family members to make sure I got the story, fair and in the middle, because everybody got their own version of what's real and what's the truth. But I wanted to interview everybody.
Yeah.
But two of the main characters that I wanted to interview had passed away, my grandparents, right? And so I didn't feel fair interviewing some without interviewing them. And so that the book is all memoir. It is all from my memory and my reflections. And, some of that may be 100% accurate. There may be some stuff that I remembered incorrectly, but it's my reflections of it. And so with that, I didn't interview anybody, and I don't want to spoil too much of the book, but there wasn't much of seeking approval to put out the book. I think part of the book, I'll get into it, but the relationship between me and my parents is strained. It's basically non-existent at this point. And that's the intergenerational part of the story. The subtitle is Breaking the Curse of Intergenerational Trauma as a Black Man in America. And so, with things like addiction and mental health, illnesses or just conditions that go unaddressed, I feel that has put such a strain between those relationships. And I tried throughout the entire book to provide grace and understanding, and really just tell the book from, this is how I thought about it. I'm not saying that it was right, but this is how I was thinking about life, or how I was understanding how things were happening. And now as an adult, I have so much more understanding for why I was upset about that, or why my parents did it that way, or why they didn't have XYZ or whatever. So, yeah, but you're absolutely right. Especially in our community, it's like, don't let nothing out the house, and that's how I grew up. But, I think that, that's the same mentality that keeps us from not having these conversations. And so to break that curse, sometimes you got to do things that we don't usually do.
Yeah. What was your greatest hope when you wrote PTSD? What was your greatest hope that, you would share with the world, or would inspire? What was it?
My greatest hope is, I'm going to tell you the real one. So
tell me the real one. Tell us all the real.
Yeah, give us the real. That's all we want.
So in the book, I'm going to tell y'all what's in the book. And then I'm going to tell y'all like I'm about to cry. That's why I'm having a hard time. But so in the book, the hope is that for people who don't know what life is like for a young Black man, to get a window into that world, to be like, oh, not everybody's dealing with it, but like there are a lot of people dealing with stuff that this young man went through. And my situation ain't the worst and it ain't the best. But like, this is a situation. And so that provides some empathy, some understanding, so that we can heal. Yeah. And then, for people, just like what you said, Eric, earlier, to provide that inspiration. My story just from like, if you just took the professional and academic side of it, it's like, that's inspirational for a lot of people coming up from how I grew up. And so I want to provide the inspiration and also break down that stigma that keeps us from talking about mental health, because I wouldn't have gotten through all the things that I got through without addressing my mental health at some point, whether it was, for a long time doing it in a way that, all the bad things that were happening to me, I internalized them and used them as motivation. Or when it got too bad, I had to go find a therapist. So that's, those are the hopes that I have. So in the book, but I really, if I want my mom to read the book, and I want my mom to read the book from a place of love and to seek some form of mental health treatment, and my dad as well. That would be if that was the only thing that came out of the book, it would be a major success.
Yeah. That's dope. That's deep stuff, man.
Yeah, it is, man. Can you talk to us, if you don't mind, can you talk to us about how did you find yourself, with this strained relationship with your parent? Because in the book, at least to where I'm at, up to chapter 10, it seemed like you had a decent relationship with your mother. You talked a lot about your dad and how he went back and forth to jail, and how the relationship was good at one point. But now I'm hearing you say that both of those relationships are strained right now. Do you mind sharing with us how did you get to that point?
Yeah. So my dad, he just wasn't in my life for growing up for most of it. And so like it wasn't bad or good. It was just like non-existent. And I longed for him to be there. When I became an adult, we eventually started to bond in jail. And it was, me looking at, okay, his life has been what it is for a whole bunch of reasons, a lot of systemic reasons. And it gave me this ability to forgive and provide grace. And so we ended up being best friends, like just close as can be. And my mom, I don't know if I mentioned this, but my mom was 14 when she had me. And so her life was kind of put on pause in freshman year of high school. And so with every accomplishment, with every milestone that I achieved, it felt like we just grew further and further apart. And it turned into, what I would hope have been pride and love for me. It just didn't feel that way. It felt like competition and resentment, and so and that's just kind of how it was and where it is. So,
my question is, did you mention that you were a first generation college student?
Yeah. So neither one of my parents graduated from high school. Yeah.
And so I don't know. I just feel, and look, now I'm finna put my wife on blast, but she kind of was in the same boat. She's a first generation, college. So she had other cousins behind her, attend college as well. But, for the most part, she was too. So we've had conversations where she felt like she didn't have the support that she needed, when she was going through college. And it was almost like, why are you doing this? Why are you, this is what she's getting from, family members and things like that. But I definitely see, the difference between that, because for me, and this is why I'm appreciative of conversations like this, because I get to see the experiences from others, and other people's perspective as I'm going through college, because I had support. And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm thinking everybody has these numbers, everybody is going to be proud of you that you're doing this, and everybody's going to be happy that you're going to get that degree. And to see that it's not there, it's like, oh, wow, so that's definitely, good to be able to tap in with, check in.
And I know it's tough, man. I can just see that it's tough for you to talk about this, and it would be tough for anyone to talk about well, I'm not anyone, but generally speaking, it's hard to talk about having an estranged relationship with your parents, right? That's your sense of belonging. That's the people who created you. Those are your original caretakers. And so to be in that position, I can understand it. And then I think about, I can really see you really, and I think you said this in the book, you do all of this for your family. And I can tell, because when I asked you, what's the greatest hope? You know, you say, I really want to just have a better relationship with my parents. Like, it's not to sell 1 million copies. It's not to be a bestseller. It's not to go do a world tour. You brought it all the way back to, I just really want to, improve my relationship with my family. And that's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep. So Reggie, you talked a little bit about, and we could talk about the book, but I just want to talk, like, have a real conversation with you, with the book as the backdrop. You talk about your experiences, and you said that, and you're accurate, a lot of young Black males have the same experience as you. Like, it's insane. It's almost like we all have the same experiences to some degree, but it might look a little bit different. But one thing that a lot of us can relate to, I can't personally relate to this. I don't think Des can either. And the reason I can't relate to it is because my father was absent from my childhood and pretty much absent from my life today. But you talked about dealing with your dad being locked up. I think at one point he was locked up from 8 until like 16 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you said this in the book, like, people don't understand the stress that everybody goes under when a person is locked up. Talk to the audience and tell us about, like, what is it like when you have a father that's incarcerated for so long like you did?
Yeah. That constant stress. It's like you like the TV shows and the movies, and anytime you see something in prison, the prison outbreaks and all that, you're like, shit, is my pops going through that right now? Is he getting beat up? Is he this? Is he that? Is the guard, putting him through it? And just being out and not having that communication to be able to ask that question every day, it'll drive you insane, especially for somebody you love, like you love this person. And so, like, I even though we didn't have the greatest relationship, as pops, that's right, my dad, he called me, and then it'd be like 3 months before he could call again, because he was on max, or he was in the hole. And so, like, all that time, it's stuff happening in my life that I want to talk about. It's stuff that I want to know what's happening in his life. And it's just, it's crazy. It's hard. And good. No, it's hard just knowing that you can't affect any change in what's going on in his life, and that you just hope for the best. You just hope for the best.
Yeah. One part that I can relate to is I had an uncle who was incarcerated in and out throughout my childhood. And he was like a father figure to me. And I kind of had a little chuckle when I read this part in your book. I'm going to just say this and see if, I know you're going to immediately know what I'm talking about. And anybody who has dealt with this, what we're getting ready to do here. So I'm going to just say it like this: 485-0940.
Yeah.
485-0940. Des, you don't know nothing about that. It's like, so when you got a person that's locked up, right, they can only call so many numbers, right? You got to be on the approved list. And so what happens is they'll call you or your mama's house, which was in my case, my uncle will call my mama's house. And, Reggie, you can attest to this. He'll say, all right, click over and dial this number. And Reggie memorized one of the numbers. He called it so many times, he actually memorized one of the numbers. So 485-0940 number. And I know what that's like, dialing that number. And you said in the book that you would sometimes kind of eavesdrop to see what they're talking about, or just put the phone down. Like, I've been there. I've done that, lived that. And so I kind of got a good laugh out of that situation. But man, like, I think you're talking about, like, those were critical days in your life that you missed with your dad and all that went on while he was away. But I kind of want to segue a little bit and talk about the social aspect of mental wellness. And I'm about to get into chapter BLM, the Black, I guess, does it stand for Black Lives Matter? I ain't got into it yet.
You gotta get
Does
into
BLM
it.
stand
You gotta get into it.
Don't tell me. Cool. But the first sentence, cool, I will. I don't want you to spoil it because I'm really enjoying reading this. The first sentence in that chapter, you talk about one of the greatest issues in your life is the racism. And so for you, being a kid from out east and moving around and ending up in NBA, you're probably one of the only Black kids in the school. Then you go to Vanderbilt, where you're probably one of the few Black kids, but you're an athlete, so you probably, were around most of the Black students, on the team. How has racism affected your life?
Yeah. So the first time, really like feeling it was going to NBA. And I mean, of course, like when you're in the hood and you just playing basketball or you chilling out, the police gonna drive by and harass and do all that. But like really like seeing, okay, we living in two different worlds was when I went to NBA. And it was hard because I was feeling a lot of pressure and a lot of tension from my family and friends from back home, because here I was, kid from the hood that got this opportunity, and I'm at this white school with all these rich people. And so before I could even step foot through the school, I'm better than everybody is what the perception was. It's like, nah, I'm just going to get this education. And so, I got called white, I got called Oreo by my own people. Yeah. And it's like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And for the longest, like it just used to piss me off, because like, okay, if I pretend to be smart, that's why I downplay a lot of my success and a lot of things that I do, because when I was younger, it's like, oh, here you go, making all A's again. It's like, now I'm white. Now my whole identity changed because of accomplishments or because of academic prowess. And so that was a blow that we delivered to ourselves. These are Black people doing this to me. Yeah. And then from the other side, it even what was this last fall? The head of school invited me back to speak, and I sent him a copy of the book in advance and everything, and he said that I lived in KC Projects, and I was like, nah, I never did. But like, Black person from out east, let's just put him over there. Yeah. And so
did you correct him on that?
Hopefully you did. Oh yes. Okay. Yes. Yes. But it was a time in my life where I would have, right? And it's just like, okay, I'm gonna just bite my tongue, keep on rolling. But yeah, NBA, and I tell this story in the book, but 8th grade is when I started there, and there was this kid. He came up to me, or he was around the table or something, and he's like, "Hey Reggie, what's the difference between a Black person and a bag of shit?" It's like, just stop right there. The bag.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There ain't no conversation you can have.
Right? Yeah. He goes, the bag.
Wow.
Insinuating that Black people ain't nothing but shit. And so so I'm like, damn, like, okay, that's the mentality of people out here. We got some people who literally think like that. And if it was a joke or not, or like somebody told you that joke, and somebody, you go back far enough, that's how somebody feel. And so, it was just like a lot of things like that. Like that was egregious, but there was so many micro aggressions and things that, you're smart for a Black person. That's all these white people appear smart, but then you're right here at the top of the Black people smart. And it's like, wow, a lot of stuff like that. But I didn't really get that consciousness of that until later, like much later. Because I think I had just the exceptionalism mindset, if I could do it, anybody could do it. Stop being lazy type shit. And it took me just seeing the bigger picture and understanding that like so many stars had to align for me. And it was like damn near perfection with these stars aligning that I got to where I am. And any wrong turn, any one circumstance could have changed everything. I could be sitting in prison right now. I could be dead right now. I could be all that. But I had I leave the hashtag it's written, because I feel like so much of my life has already been written. And it's just, yeah, but going back to your original question, racism, the whole book is about forms of trauma and how I've overcome them. But racism is one that persists throughout, and it continues to corporate America, to me going out and getting clients, to everything. And it is so pervasive and it's so ingrained in our society that it too gets normalized. And we'll make a joke about it. We'll laugh about it. It's like, yeah, they ain't gonna give, like, to me, they ain't gonna give that black person their money to invest. Like,
Right.
Exactly.
And so, but it's, again, persevere.
Yeah, definitely persevere. And I can definitely relate to that as well. Cause so I went to Hume Fogg. I didn't graduate from there, but it's kind of the same situation. I went to Meigs Middle, so of course all my friends, you go from Meigs Middle, you go straight to Hume Fogg from there. So I just remember that, I didn't have an experience like how you had about the joke and the difference between the black people and the bag of shit and stuff like that. But I had an experience where there was a teacher, and there was maybe like 8 black kids in my class. Black boys, it was more specific. And this young gentleman, he probably is my age at this point, but he pulled us all to a conference room. He pulled us all out of lunch, pulled us to a conference room, and was basically just telling us, he didn't really go into full detail about what was happening, but he was just saying that, just be conscious and be mindful of how, certain teachers, certain students treat you, and, what they may think about you. And at the time, you're young and you're just like, all right, it is cool. But I really feel like he even mentioned that, he will be in the teacher's lounge and there's teachers in there talking about their black students, like if he's not in there, and the things they're saying about them, the things that, have their perception on them and all that stuff. Like he's letting us know that, be mindful of these things. And I think that was like the first time I had the experience of somebody trying to kind of opening my eyes to, the subliminal racism that's happening surrounding. Because sometimes I don't think I had it just direct at me when I was coming up, but it was a lot of subliminal things happening that I just maybe not been aware of. And, it's crazy that, at a young age, you experience those things. There's something that you still experience as a young child.
True. I think the subliminal hurts worse than the overt, really. Because it's the being followed in the store. Like I'm literally just trying to buy a bag of chips. Like, why are you following me? And that stuff. And we don't address it all the time because, again, it becomes so normal. But it challenges your whole character as a person. It challenges you and says that, oh, you are distrustful. You are somebody that's probably gonna steal. So now you unconsciously thinking that about yourself. And so, like, it shapes so much of who we become. And it's why in media and everything else plays a huge role into it as well. Because we see it in movies and TVs and books and cartoons. I got a shirt with all the black cartoon characters with Black Lives Matter signs and all that. And but you see through those shows that came out in the 80s and 90s, most of the black boys had a ball in their hand in a jersey. And it's just, it's pervasive.
Yeah. And there's another thing that you mentioned even as well, where you were talking about how you kind of had to dumb down the things that your accomplishments, because I felt kind of the same way. So, of course, I lived in a neighborhood with a lot of other black kids, and I went to a barbershop with black kids and black men, and I always felt ashamed to tell them, I go to Hume Fogg.
Yeah.
Oh, what high school you go to? You go to Hume Fogg.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
For real. It's like when I say NBA, it's like the responses I get from people is, this. It's like, nah, that's how you thinking about it. I went to school. And I got an education. But everybody else puts their story on it. And one of the things that I absolutely hate is when the first response out of somebody's mouth when I say I went to NBA or Vandy is, did you play sports? Did you play football? It's like, that's not why. That's not the
That's the
only
reason you
reason.
were there.
Yeah, it's not the
To
only
them,
reason I
that's
was
like the
there.
only reason you were there.
The only reason this young black man made it to a school like that was because he could run the ball. And it's like, no, like actually had over a 4.0 GPA, but thank you, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, I mean, that racism piece is pervasive and it affects us all, whether it is microaggressions or whether it's overt. It does, you know, it's just a thing that we always have to constantly deal with. I'm looking forward to reading that chapter. I'm going to pull a quote for this. We're getting ready to wrap up here, Reggie. It's been good dialogue and I'm really enjoying this conversation. I want to pull a quote because it's something that's really important. For me as a therapist, I spend a lot of time on this topic, and I'm going to read the quote and then we'll get into it. This is a quote from the chapter called Filling the Void. And you said, one of the best things you can do for your own mental health is to forgive. Now, you have been through, I mean, a lot, right? And you're still going through it, but you still have the wherewithal to understand that forgiveness is about mental health. And it is also not about the other person. It's about you being able to release that energy so that you can carry on with your life. Talk to us about why you feel like forgiveness is so important and how forgiveness can be the key to you reconnecting with your parents.
Yeah. So in that passage, I also talk about, you know, the first person you got to forgive is yourself for any wrongdoings, any past, you know, anything in your past that you've done that you have no control over. We can't change the past. And when you're able to forgive yourself, you are able to then look out in the world and be like, okay, all right, I got over my stuff that I had wrong with myself and that I felt that were wrong with myself or whatever. And now let me look out into this world. And so, you know, just like the relationship with my dad and how it evolved, I had this resentment toward him for being in prison and not being in my life. But then, you know, 18, 19 years old, I was like, I got to forgive him for that, because if I keep holding on to this, then we'll never have a relationship. And so forgave him for that. And we had the best relationship in the world. And one of my favorite lines in the whole book is in that same passage about how, you know, when you forgive somebody, you release those shackles that they have over your brain, you know.
Absolutely.
And you know, when you walking around mad at something that somebody else doing, that's only affecting you. They can't feel your mad energy wherever they are in the world. Like it's not doing anything to them. It's only building toxins inside your body. Right. And so you know, it's not just like a forgive and like say you forgive. It's like you got to actually find it within yourself to be like, I'm over that, you know. And one of the and you'll read it as you go along the book, but you know, the relationship between me and my father was just horrible. And I hadn't talked to him in over 2 years.
Wow.
And about a month ago, I texted my dad and I was like, you know, I love you. And despite how everything, you know, shook out, I just want you to know that. And it wasn't a invitation to talk every day, be my friend, none of that. But it was like, that ain't holding me back no more. Like, you know, it was tough. It was rough. But, you know, I worked on myself and I've gotten through that. And when I sent that text, it was like I just breathed. I just had a deep breath, a sigh out, and I was like, man, I feel good. You know, I feel good. And so, you know, when you're able to forgive the world for everything that has put you through, like, and truly do it, like not just say it, but truly do it, it's liberating. It's liberating.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is awesome, man. Look, Reggie, man, we appreciate you so much for being on the show, sharing your story, sharing your truth, and then also sharing this amazing book that I'm looking forward to diving into myself. And look, you done gave us so much already, but I have to ask you, do you have like any final words that you want to give to the listening audience, people checking us out, anything final that you want to say?
For sure. Yeah. So the book is out for pre-order. Only Eric and a few other folks got the advanced copy. So it's out for pre-order. It releases on Juneteenth, Liberation Day. Awesome. And so Amazon, Barnes and Noble, bookstores, whatever, just call them, let them know that you want it if it's a bookstore. But you can pre-order it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble today.
Awesome. Well,
Man,
we'll
listen.
definitely be checking that out.
Yeah.
Juneteenth,
Yes.
PTSD,
Juneteenth.
perseverance through severe dysfunction. Man, that
Yeah.
man.
And follow me, Reggie D. Ford, on everything.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely get it out there. Dez, I'm gonna do this. So Reggie actually he gave me this book, brought it to my house, and I ordered one on Amazon. I'm gonna give that one to you, but you order one and give it to another person.
Okay, I'm gonna pass it forward.
And let's keep that going.
I got you.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
And
Oh
keep
yeah, most
that
definitely.
going.
I got it.
Man, PTSD, Perseverance Through Severe Dysfunction, Breaking the Curse of Intergenerational Trauma as a Black Man in America by Reggie Ford is a book that will open up your eyes to what's going on in the world for Black men. And I just can't stop turning it, man. I've been reading it mostly today and read a lot of it yesterday. And again, man, it's just almost like reading my own story. But for those who don't have that story, this is a good story for you to pick up. Man, it's been a pleasure. We really appreciate you guys being with us again for another great episode of Experience Mental Health, the podcast. And again, Des, you said the word experience like 5, 6, 7 times today. That's our favorite word.
Yeah.
We want people to learn and grow from the experiences of other people, right? And that's why we had Reggie on the show today. Be sure to follow him on Instagram. Check him out if you need some wealth management, any of that stuff, man. However you can connect with this guy, I want to see you guys do it. Reggie, it's been a pleasure to have you. Hey guys, be sure to check us out. Like the show. Like the show. Like the page,
subscribe,
like, share, subscribe. Y'all know what to do. We appreciate you guys, and as always, make it a great day. We're out. Yo, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please like, comment, and share this with all of your friends. And also be sure to subscribe and then go check out some of our past episodes. Make it a great day.